Hi. For a while we've been talking about landscape design and picking plants and that sort of thing, and hopefully a lot of people have learned more about it and are more comfortable doing their own design, but there's times when you just might want to hire a professional to give you a hand and figure out your own landscape. So we're starting a new segment here, hope to do it pretty much every episode, where we talk to designers about their process, what they do, what you can expect when you hire a designer, and put you at ease about picking up the phone or sending an email and getting in touch with a professional designer. So I've got Alison Jordan here with me. Alison and Alison is the reason I'm on TV, started Garden Wise Guys 15 years ago, and now we've come full circle. So welcome aboard.
Thanks.
And I'm loving your creation. It's just in its infancy right now.
It is, yeah. It was just put in October.
October of this year, and we're in February, so
Yep.
yeah, we haven't even turned a year. It's still in diapers.
It is.
Yes, okay. So I wanted to start with how you get involved in something like this. Somebody's gonna pick up the phone, send you an email, whatever. What would somebody anticipate if they finally got to the point where they said, I need help?
Well, I would say typically someone either calls me or emails me and says they're interested in hiring me, and we start the process there.
So where does the discussion go? Do you have questions for them? They have questions for you?
Yes, usually one of the most important things is to clarify that I'm a garden designer. And so I'm not a landscape contractor, I'm not a landscape architect, so what that means. And so,
what's the difference between, say, a landscape designer, landscape architect?
The difference is that I'm not licensed, and so I typically do mostly plants and light hardscape. And if there's someone looking for somebody more for structural things and things that need to have, drainage and walls and things like that, they're probably better with someone that is a licensed landscape architect who has a master's degree and has been certified by the state.
So when the stakes go up, you'll refer them to somebody else.
Right.
So at least first you get the first call, and then you can help them parse whether they're going to stay with you or their needs are a little beyond.
Right, and also clarifying, because sometimes people are just looking for someone to install the landscape.
Right.
And that's a landscape contractor.
No, they get dirt under their nails.
Yeah, no,
we get graphite.
Yeah, I get a pedicure. Or manicure.
Manicure, yes. Well,
Pedicure too.
You could design with your feet. Okay, so you get the call and set up an appointment. Do you have them do any kind of preparation in advance, or do you just show up, start cold?
Well, usually, I just get the basic information. Address helps.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I like to kind of get the initial conversation, everything in person. So usually it's just more the basics by phone or email, clarifying what my role, like we said, and then we set an appointment and I show up.
Do people bring stuff to the table with you, photos or images or things like that? Is that all part of like a first visit, so you kind of have some idea what they're shopping for?
It depends, but some people like to do that, and that's great. I welcome that. Some people just have it in their head, and they're gonna, just kind of share, or as we walk around and look at the garden. And sometimes people have less of an idea, and they're really looking for me,
right,
to give them what I think as I walk around.
So what type of questions are you asking that they might need to be prepared to answer?
Well, I would break it down probably into two categories. One would be their needs of the landscape, what they're thinking they would need as far as function, like are they looking for an area for entertainment, or do they want to just, like here where we just updated an old lawn and did a front yard landscape, are they looking for, a children's play area, those kinds of things, just
right,
to get a sense of what they're looking for as far as how they want to use the landscape.
So in a way, same as if you were an architect designing a new house for them. How many bedrooms do you need? What kind of kitchen do you like? That sort of stuff, but transferring it to outside.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other side of it is the aesthetics. So what style, what type of plants. Don't get too far into it in the initial meeting as far as like colors and all that kind of thing, but just getting a feel for what they're thinking, and also the scale of the job, as we walk around. So do they just want to rip everything out and start new? Are we bringing in like, big trees and things like that, or is it more just the smaller shrubs and perennials and that type of thing?
A tune-up versus a wholesale remake.
Right.
Right. So I'm looking up the street here and we have all different styles of houses. How does the style of the house affect what kind of garden you're going to design, and does it matter to your clients?
I think the style of the house drives the landscape design a lot, and I think what I've found is most people are in tune with that. And we have so many different styles of homes here in Santa Barbara, so it really does create a sense of style of the garden to be complementary to the style of the house. Yeah, so that's something that comes up usually in the first.
I think of it in terms of if you were planning a meal. You know, you could put mugu gai pan with a standing rib roast, but it doesn't always get you there. So yeah, there's a marriage between the landscape style and the house. It's all part of one story.
Yeah, it is. It's the whole property.
So should we have a look at what you did here? Talk a little bit about your design process. So we've been through the interview. The people love you. They're ready to hire you. They're going to just start sending money your way so you can do your work. How do you get started in terms of delivering what they're looking for?
Well, I will email them a proposal, and in the proposal I outline all of my tasks, and I have it line item by task. So that includes the initial site evaluation, the plant list development, obviously the design, creating meetings with clients, the deliverables, which is the final plan with the plant list and specifications and everything, so that they can then give that to somebody.
So they can understand why you're charging them $150,000 for your design services. Well, we start working for Oprah, we'll go in that direction. Okay, so you got here. What did you see before this lovely little baby garden went in? What do you have to work with?
There was an old lawn and there was a dying birch tree.
And that's dying because?
The drought.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, old-fashioned high water using garden with birch trees and lawn.
For those of you who still have birch trees, give them up. Okay. So, the birch trees, were they pretty good size?
They were, yeah, especially right here.
I'm guessing this is a west exposure. This is all the afternoon heat. Those birch trees probably played a pretty important role just in terms of the house.
They did, because that's the living room right there. You can see that big window, and the sun just bakes in here, especially in the afternoon.
So your job?
Provide something screening.
Okay. And we had, so it was lawn, birch trees. I'm seeing a big shrub over that way that's still there. That looks like it's got some historic value, so decided to keep that.
Yeah, the Rhaphiolepis. When I look at a garden, and especially when we're taking a lot out, I try to see what we can keep, just to keep some sense of scale and greenery, so it doesn't, just look like a, bulldozer came in and took everything out, because it takes a while for everything to regrow. I mean, this is 5 months old and you can see it's doing really well, but having that over there, it's nice to have that.
Would you also be considering how appropriate that is to where you're going, or how sustainable it would be to keep it?
Yes. For example, if that was a birch tree, it would have been gone.
Just because it's so thirsty and...
Yeah, and also the style of the landscape. Yeah. It's a little tricky with established trees sometimes, but if it's stressed or really water using, then usually, it's going to hit the chopping block.
It's always that, should I stay or should I go? What are you going to get rid of? I see a adorable, if I can use that term, little creek bed running through here. And aside from looking nice, I'm guessing you got something to say about it. So why don't we go over, bring our kayaks and our canoes and do some whitewater rafting. So we're here at the headwaters of the Colorado River, heading down toward the Grand Canyon. And Alison, tell us about this. What's it here for, other than just looking nice?
Well, this adorable little dry creek bed actually provides a really good, important function, and that's something that I like to look at when I'm doing my initial site assessment, is how we can take the rainwater from the roof and bring it into the garden and retain it on site. So we slow it, we spread it, and we sink it into the garden, and then we don't have to have the runoff go out into the street and down into the ocean.
So you're not only protecting the creeks by keeping excess water off of there, but you're also allowing it to percolate down into the garden.
Yes. And one of the inspirations on this site was when I came here, most of these boulders were here, and they were just sort of placed haphazardly. And I thought, well, that's going to make it super easy to do a creek bed, and it also creates a nice feature in the garden, you know, front yard. One of the things when there's not a lawn is to create kind of this spatial and visual balance, I think. And you know, a lot of times you'll see if there's too many, like one of this, one of that, one of this, it gets a little busy. So it's nice to have using rocks and stones and other things to kind of have some sort of non-plant feature.
Yeah, and it's a pretty line. It has just a nice soft curve to it.
Yeah.
Great, so this is doing something, and it also brings the eye a little treat. Fabulous.
This is an Arbutus marina, strawberry tree.
Okay, who's it gonna be when it grows up? And you're calling it a tree, but not your typical lollipop trunk. So what are your favorite things about this?
The bark, love the bark.
And
The
beautiful
red
flowers.
and the flowers, yeah, and then when the fruit comes out. And I was picking up off the brick, so one of the things that I went with aesthetically was the red kind of tone. There's a few plants here, and this is one of them that picks up on that.
Nice touch. Okay, now don't take this personally, but a lot of your gardens suffer from a condition known as one-of-each-itis. And that comes from going to the nursery on impulse and buying some shiny, pretty plant, putting it in the garden and just sort of thinking, where do I put this? One of the advantages of hiring a professional gardener is they have some sense of restraint. And that's I think one of the best reasons of having somebody who knows their plants and has some sense of how to organize them. So let's talk a little bit about plant palette, what you start with. How many plants do you begin with, and how do you make those decisions about what actually ends up going in the garden?
Good question. So how I start, there's a lot of plants out there, and so you got to narrow it down. So what are the things that narrow it down? One is I ask the client, send me pictures, go online, give me ideas. The Waterwise plant website's a great place to start. Other sites, or just going around town and take a little picture, you know, with your phone.
So but not while you're driving with one hand out the window.
Right.
Just a little caution.
Right.
Yes.
So I received that information, and then as we were talking about style, I know that we wanted to do a Mediterranean garden with kind of a California native flair. I knew the client was interested in incorporating California natives. So all of that information goes into, and then knowing what plants I know are going to work, looking at the color palette that we want to go with, all of that. And I develop a potential plant list, and then I send that to the client with images that they can look at and rank, love it, just okay, or no thanks, and then they send that information back to me.
So when you're putting that initial palette together, it's fine if it looks pretty, but it's got to grow here. So what are some of the criteria you use to say, yeah, this plant could work, if they like this plant, it'll work here because?
Well, the microclimate is a big part of that. So, you know, we can see we're getting a little hot here. It's the afternoon. We're pretty much southwest facing here. So it gets really hot in the afternoon. So that's certainly one factor. The water usage here, we wanted to go very low water using. These are really low water using plants.
After they're established?
Yes, after they're established, on the very low range of water use. And then also the colors and the aesthetic appeal, and also, as we talked about, the function, the screening, and those types of things.
So of the plants here that are really performing some function, we're really just talking about the Arbutus over there that's going to give us some shade. Anything else here that you can't do without? Any specific plants that need to be here?
I would say the Westringia in front of the house and the New Zealand Flax. One of the things to think about when you're picking out plants is it going to look good year round, or what's the season of the plant as well? So I try to use things that are, I call them 365 plants, you know, that look good all year, to be kind of our anchors. And also we did a little kind of mini hedge right here with the sunflower, things like that.
Great. So the rest of it comes down to aesthetics, having a color scheme here. Can we just look at a few of your favorite plants in here and maybe share with people what you like about those plants and what to expect? Because what's really important right now is that these are all in their infancy, and if this garden looks a little bit sparse, that's okay because all these plants are going to grow up. So I'm going to sing your praises here because I really like what I'm seeing going on with the color scheme, and having done this, I can kind of picture where it's going. You've got the Yarrow. This is called Moonshine, with beautiful golden flowers, silvery foliage, and then you're repeating the silver in the Diamondia ground cover, which is also going to have little yellow flowers on it. And then back there, the Westringia. Which variety?
Gray box.
That's gray box, so that's not going to get much bigger than the height of the windows. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that sort of continuity and repetition of colors in here.
Well, as you were saying, having restraint as well as a design and how the plants flow together. Mm-hmm. So you really want to have continuity, but then change. So that was sort of the idea of keeping in the gray theme, but then having like the pop of yellow and transitioning to the Westringia, where it's a more of just an established shrub. And
so the gray is the unifying sort of harmonious aspect of 4 very different plants, and then you get the variety out of them from their individual differences.
Right, yeah, so you can see how it ends up really feeling like it's all meant to be, hopefully. Right. That visually it connects to each other.
So why the verbena and the lavender? Any reason why you would have 2 different plants with purple flowers?
Well, as you mentioned, they're similar in function and shape, but they have different flowers, obviously, and the foliage is different, but there's similarities again too. So it's like that, where there's similarities but contrast.
Gotcha.
So I could have just had all lavender there, mm-hmm. but I think switching it up creates a little more visual interest. And as we were talking about, the scent of the verbena and just the different leaf structure and all that.
The one other plant I want to point out here, and I don't know that, not that I'm the be all and the end all, that I would have thought to use that dark brown New Zealand flax there, but given the colors of the house, the brick, the door, etc., it's a really nice touch. Was that something you immediately knew you would use, or more of just kind of an inspiration?
I think actually it was immediate, because I have to say it wasn't all me. There was one here before. Oh. And it was a little tired and old, and so I thought it looked really nice when I came here, but I knew it just needed a fresh new look, and I actually went with a little bit darker just because of the black and the brown with the shutters and the door, but that was the inspiration.
So when I get old and tired, I can just be replaced and refreshed with another version of me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
a little newer, a little darker.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap this up. Alison, you've been fabulous. It's lovely to see what you're doing with design, and I hope this has helped all the viewers figure out why to use a landscape designer, a professional designer, where you might want to call them in, and wish you well with your garden.